Thank you both for coming. From what I understand, you've been having some marital issues? Would you like to talk about that?
Well, things are kind of complicated. How much should I tell you?
There's no need to be worried here. This is a safe place where you can tell me anything. Why don't you start from the beginning?
Okay, so it all started when and then but as soon as I found out that and then and now I'm Does that make any sense?
Please don't come back.
I streamed 12 minutes this week on Twitch, and oh my god, what the fuck just happened? This game is such a disaster in terms of like plot and stuff that I decided I wasn't gonna write a script for this video like I normally do. I just wanna ramble about what I just played because it's such a nightmare. I will mark spoilers. I will say like from this point on we're gonna talk about spoilers, so don't worry. I'm gonna like explain the plot of the game if people haven't heard of it, and then we'll get into like my thoughts about it. Oh my god. I am about to take you on a journey of confusion and disgust and anger.
This is your co-pilot, the editor, speaking. We're gonna have to make an emergency landing at, this totally normal apartment building. Yeah, we'll start there.
If you haven't seen anything about 12 Minutes before, it's a game from Annapurna Interactive. It's like an interactive point-and-click thriller, and point-and-click games were like most popular, I think like 90s, like they're not as common now, but it's a really interesting game. I really liked it. And the premise is this husband comes home from work and he hangs out with his wife, and then this cop comes out of nowhere, bursts the door down, demands a clock or like a stopwatch, and then the whole thing replays, and he's basically stuck in a time loop where every 12 minutes the loop resets. Or if he dies, the loop resets as well. Or if he leaves the apartment, the loop resets. So he's just stuck in this apartment in this time loop of misery. It's a nightmare. It's actually got a decent cast. It stars Daisy Ridley, who's in Star Wars, James McAvoy, and Willem Dafoe, and they do a pretty decent job. I will say sometimes it sounds like Daisy Ridley is more focused on making sure her American accent is authentic as opposed to like the lines that she's delivering, because it wasn't as strong from her as I'd hoped.
I need to sit down.
But Willem Dafoe and James McAvoy are like incredible in this game. Very, very good.
You think you're funny?
So in this time loop, basically every time you loop, you continue to get new information, because once you learn something, you can bring that up in the next loop. So like the first loop you ever do, if the cop is asking for a stopwatch, the next time you start the loop, you can ask your wife about the watch. The loop gets easier to get through because you are learning more information every single time you loop. I actually really enjoyed the game up until the ending, which I won't discuss yet because I don't want to spoil anyone who wants to play it. But I thought it was so nice to play a game that's so creative and unique. I haven't seen a game like this, especially like top down, which I think probably made developing the game a little bit easier for them. They don't have to focus on like facial animations and stuff. And it's just really nice to play a game that is not the same kind of open world RPG kind of game, which I love those types of games, but like I think playing them so often, I'm like, all right, I need to try something different. It's a really unique game that I liked a lot. But I need to talk about what goes on in this game because it has been destroying my brain. And like I went on stream the other day and just looked through all the different endings and like different fan theories and stuff. So I need to talk about this or else it's gonna make my brain explode. So it's safe to say that from here on out, you can expect spoilers if you want to play this game. There's spoilers from here on out. I was gonna say skip to another timestamp, but we're just gonna talk about spoilers the whole time. Okay, I'm gonna assume everyone that does not want to see spoilers has left. So let me be clear when I say this game is an absolute clusterfuck in terms of story. What the fuck is going on? So I'm gonna try to relay the events in the order that I learned them, but because everything is so different in the game, you may come across information quicker than I did, so I'm gonna try to relay how my playthrough went. Right off the bat, I killed the wife on accident my first loop, so that was a good time. Basically, in the bedroom, at some point, your wife might go in there and flip on the light switch and it'll spark and she'll go, ooh, we gotta get that fixed. Which I did not realize meant that if you flipped it again, it would kill you.
Big Pisha.
So you walk in from work and your wife is like, hey there, big boy, basically. And she's like, it's a special occasion. There's like something I want to talk to you about. And she makes like his favorite dessert and they sit down and have dessert together. And she hands him a box and he opens the box and it's baby clothes that say Dahlia on it with like a flower on the front. And she's like, I'm pregnant. We're having a baby. And then you start hear like banging on the door and it's a cop at the door and you let him in and he like immediately says like, I've got a warrant for your arrest, get on the ground, and he like zip ties you and the wife. And so he's like berating the wife and is like, where's the watch? Where's the stopwatch? I need the stopwatch. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, you know what I'm talking about. I want that watch. And she's like, I don't know. And then he kills you. He just strangles you. He's like, all right, if you won't give me what I want, then fine, I'll strangle you. And he strangles the husband and then you go back into the time loop again. So you're like, what the hell? So now that you have this information, you're like, okay, there's gonna be a cop that comes to the door, so you can go to your wife and be like, hey, there's a cop that's gonna come here any second. Or you can try to tell her like, I'm living in a time loop, but she doesn't listen to you until you prove it. So one of your options, or I guess kind of your only option to get information in this game, is to give the wife sleeping pills. So if you do this and you let the wife pass out on the bed and set up the light switch, the cop will come in and be like, oh my God, like you can hide in the closet and the cop will come in and be like, oh my God, what happened? And he goes in, flips the light switch and he gets electrocuted. Now, if you don't hurt him, he gives you nothing. He gives you absolutely nothing. He's like, you're dead, kid. Like, you're a goner. You're done for, kid. But if you stab him in the leg or shoot him in the leg or something, then he'll start to give you information. And basically, he tells you that your wife killed her own dad. Once you go into another loop, you can confront your wife and be like, I heard you killed your own dad, and then she'll confess like everything to you. And then if you continue to like go through these loops and like interrogate the cop and basically tell you that like he had an affair with a nanny and he thought that like your wife was jealous, so she killed him or something. And so if you ask the wife in another loop, so many loops, the nanny or whatever, she's like, I don't even remember. Like, I was 2, I never saw him again. I don't remember anything. She's kind of zoned out because she's reading a book this whole time. So she's not really paying attention. She's just reading. You slowly start to unravel this story that actually the wife is not the one who killed her father. She did shoot him, but he didn't die until days later. Eventually, you can come to this loop if you do every single little thing right, where the cop comes in and doesn't immediately hurt you, and the cop and the wife can talk and be like, look, I can prove that I wasn't involved. Look at this Polaroid, it's dated on this day. I was not involved. I don't know who did this. And the cop is like, well, the last thing he said to me in the hospital before he died was monster, which is what he called his bastard son with this nanny. This story is like the biggest what the f I've ever played. And he is talking to the wife about the nanny, and she's like, what was her name? I never met her. And he's like, I don't know, something to do with a flower. And he's going through these different flower names. He's like, Daisy, Delilah. So I'm sitting here in complete shock and I'm like, no way. So the loop starts again. I take the baby clothes that say Dahlia with the flower on it and I drag it over to the cop, and he goes, was her name Dahlia? And the cop goes, yeah, that's it. The husband is the bastard son of the father and the nanny, which means the husband and the wife share the same father. Dahlia's his mother's name. Wait. They're siblings? Oh my God! all I could think was like them getting married and person that is marrying them saying like, do you take this woman to be your bride or your wife or whatever? And he just goes, if you incest. So discovering this information sends you back in time. You go back to the conversation that you have with your dad when you find out that you are both brother and sister, and neither of you knew it because you'd never met before. And he's interrogating you, basically saying like, I know you didn't know that she was your sister, but this relationship needs to end. And you can kind of say, yeah, okay, I understand. This needs to end. And this is like a flashback to like 8 years prior or whatever. Or you can also say, no, I'll find a way to make this work, which is when the dad gets violent, and that's when you shoot him. So in this scenario, you have shot the father. You were the one that killed the dad. The interesting thing about this is that Willem Dafoe voices the cop and the dad. So at this point, I'm like, is the cop their dad? Anyways, I'll get back to that later. So if you choose to end the relationship, which is the first thing I did because I was like, no, I'm not gonna marry my sister. That's weird. You are sent back to what seems like the beginning of the game. There's no extra hallways. You're just walking straight into a lone apartment, and it is you moving into this apartment for the first time. However, it has basically the exact same layout of your previous apartment. Like, I wonder if the vent in the bathroom still has the stopwatch in it. And it fucking did! What the fuck? What alternate universe am I living in where this stopwatch is in the exact same place as it was in the previous loop? Like, this is where I'm starting to get like, what? So you can take the stopwatch and choose to go back to the conversation with the dad, where you have a chance to say, I changed my mind. I want to be with her. I'm going to make things work. I don't have to tell her. I could keep it a secret, or like I could make it work or whatever, which is when you go back to killing your dad. However, it's a different scene. In this scene, when you go back in time, it's the cop talking to you. Like, he's bald. He's got different clothes on. This is where I'm like, who the f is the father cop? Who are you? And it sends you back to the beginning of the loop. Again, big shocker. You're back in the apartment. Your wife is about to tell you she's pregnant, which, by the way, that's something I didn't even think about until much later. I was like, oh my God, she's pregnant. She's pregnant. Oh, it's so gross. So what you can do here is when she opens her book to read, you can click on it to like take it and read it. The quote is, "It's only by forgetting that we ever really drop the thread of time and approach the experience of living in the present moment." Okay, so if you take that information and loop back to the conversation with the dad again and say, you know, I heard this, I heard that forgetting is like the way to go. And the father cop, whatever he is basically like, well, you know, there is another option. I could just completely wipe your memory. What? It would explain why he didn't realize that that was his sister, but also how he will completely wipe your memory so that you don't know she's your sister, and then you can go about your life, get married to her, have a kid. First of all, the game didn't end. You just like re-looped back to where you were. So like you forgot, although now that you've re-looped and you've seen that information, now you know you have not forgotten anymore. And it turns out that the true ending to this, you are in the loop with your dad and he's interrogating you or whatever, and you just look at the clock and let it run out. And once it hits 12, your dad says, you do have a remarkable imagination, the stories you've created, but believing them so strongly, so deeply is unhealthy. You have to let her go. You can't keep obsessing over her. Sometimes things just are what they are. It's time for you to wake up. Why would you go for this ending? Either the whole thing was like a dream, or the whole thing was completely made up on his own part and he was maybe having like mental issues or something. And I was just so pissed. I was so mad. And instead of giving us a satisfying ending, they said, it was all a dream and we're gonna leave this ambiguous enough for you to just connect the dots yourself. It just feels so lazy. Part of me was thinking that like a better ending would be to smash that like button, to smash the stopwatch. I feel like a better explanation would be he was looking at the clock while he was getting hypnotized by his dad, which has like trapped him in this mental prison. Maybe you just have to break that shit. Just vandalize that shit. And then maybe he'll f***ing snap out of it. So I want to go through the other endings. I wrote them all down just in case you guys were curious. So the mindfulness ending is like the final ending you can get. That's like the very last one. In the very beginning, there is an ending where you do basically nothing and you just continue to live your life with her. And you basically end by doing absolutely nothing and just being with her. There's another ending where when you have found out what your wife has done, this is before you find out about the nanny and the affair and the stepson. So when you have the cop hogtied, you can tell him, hey, she did this. I have nothing to do with it. Tell me what you want and I'll just give it to you. And so you can give him the watch and he'll be like, cool, thanks. He'll go kill your wife and then he'll just leave and be like, sorry it had to be this way. Peace out, deuces. So that's the coward ending. There is also the confession ending where you confess everything to your wife and she just tells you to get the fuck out. She's like, leave. I'm done with you. I'm over this. And so you can get the confession ending. And then another ending that you can actually continue the loop afterwards is the continue ending where you basically say like, fine, I won't date her. I'm gonna go live in my own apartment and I'll forget all about her. But that can lead to like more loops. So it doesn't like fully end the game. It was such a fun game that sucked me in super intensely because I was so interested in the story and so excited to find out what was going on. And then, girl, they gave me nothing. I'm just bummed because I was really into the story. If anybody else has any other suggestions of what they thought might have happened, then please tell me because I am stuck. You know when like you finish a book or a movie or a series or something that kind of leaves on a cliffhanger and it just makes you mad? I'm just like cranky. I'm just mad. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed Rambly Avery. I honestly feel more comfortable talking this way than I do with a script. Although I like writing a script because I get to write everything out ahead of time, but I'm also not a great actor and I'm not very good at reading scripts. So if you enjoyed the video, you can subscribe if you want or don't. That's cool. I don't control you. Please let me know in the comments what you thought was happening in the story because I don't know, dude. I don't know what was going on. Thank you, Fan House subscribers, for allowing me to make cool videos and ramble about games that I love. I'll see you next week when we view 12 minutes from the perspective of the brother husband. Bye.
Thank you both for coming.
Wait a minute.
From what I
I've already
understand,
done this skit. Why am I
some
back?
marital issues?
No, no, no.